is Helen Okon. You are on Business Review Africa. As Nigeria prepares to celebrate her 60th independence, today I'll be speaking with Dr. Mukhtar Imam, who is a public affairs analyst. He's going to tell us more about Nigeria at 60. Okay, can you tell us more about you, Dr. Mukhtar?
Okay, I lecture, and I'm also a public affairs analyst and a consultant with a couple of firms.
Oh, that's great. Okay, Dr. Mukhtar, you are an international a public affairs analyst. Now, Nigeria will be 60 this October. What did we not do as a country, since 1960? And in terms of investments, that has put us in this, it's like we're under pressure, since 1960.
Well,
we are trying to catch up with now.
Yes, there's a whole lot of catching up to do. To be fair to Nigeria as a state, Nigeria within the Committee of Nations, as far as countries within the international systems are concerned, Nigeria falls within the category or bracket of a new state. New states are states that are post-Second World War independent states. And so Nigeria basically has had to grapple with colonialism and the exploitation that came with it. So most or all states that basically gained independence after that period are trying to pull themselves together, with the exception of China. Even China as well, So basically, we've had missed chances of opportunities in the past. There have been decades of decay as far as the polity and the political economic system is concerned. We've not basically done a needs assessment, a proper needs assessment to look at those very critical areas and foundational problems that Nigeria basically faces. We've not been able to do a proper SWOT analysis to see where our strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities and threats lie. And these are some of the things that have dragged us to where we are now. But top on the list is the high-handedness of leadership. We've had leaders who have exploited and extorted this country over the years. I recall a Bloomberg report in 2003 between 2003 and 5 that showed that Nigeria lost over $489 billion monies that were taken from this country outside. This is for the period of from 1999 to 2005. When we got back into the democratic system. So you see, these are some of the issues, salient issues that Nigeria has had to grapple with over the years. You look at the statistics and the list of countries with foreign direct investment. Nigeria is somewhere 9, 10 on the list. Where you have Democratic Republic of Congo somewhere sitting comfortably first or second on that list. So there's a whole lot that needs to be done. We need to portray ourselves. Diplomacy is very important, and diplomacy is not just the one-way traffic thing. Diplomacy is multifaceted. There's the economic angle to diplomacy, which is the most important and essential aspect of diplomacy. There's the military aspect of diplomacy. There's the individual, which is what is called the citizen's diplomacy. The persona of the person who's at the helm of affairs is also very important to woo in foreign direct investment. These are some of the areas that I feel we have lagged behind. Yes, we have made considerable successes on different fronts, but there's a whole lot more that needs to be done. And again, we must also understand that whatever we're doing on the foreign front, our domestic environment needs to be put in order, because foreign policy and diplomacy are intertwined with domestic policies as well. What are the micro and macroeconomic measures that are in place? How conducive is your environment for business? And so on and so forth. Until all these things are given attention, strengthened, then we will continue to face the gap that we're currently facing. I give you a critical example. Nigeria is the largest mobile market in the world, yet we do not have a single mobile phone plant here in Nigeria. Look around you, there's no Samsung plant, there's no Apple plant. Why is that so? So these are the very critical and cardinal questions that needs to be interrogated. We must have a proper social and open and honest conversation around how we will move the country forward.
Again, talking about investment, I always see that people focus more on federal.
Yes.
What do you think about, we have states, local governments.
Exactly.
What can they do to also
quite frankly,
be part of...
the problems of or the challenges we face as a country are multi-layered, they are multifaceted, and so on and so forth. Part of the configuration, the configuration is also part of the challenges that we're faced with. You've heard people over the years talk about the need for restructuring. You ask 10 different people what restructuring is, you will get 10 separate responses. Now, there's the need for a synergy between the local, state, and central government. part of the reasons why we're faced with this challenge and we don't even know where to turn to is are the legislations that have been created. We have a law that have taken 50% from residual list and concurrent list and have made the concurrent exclusive list so powerful. In simple language, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is clothed in immense power. So what you have is that even when you have an honest president trying to explain to the legions, you know, to say the state in this regard, to say, look, your state governors are coming here and are taking resources. You should also hold them accountable. People do not want to listen to that narrative because all they're concerned with is the portion of the concurrent exclusive list which puts so much power in the central government. And so that narrative has trickled down to the average Nigerian, and all he's concerned about is the central government. So our constitution also needs a lot of tweaking. We need to go back to it. So much power has been, you look at the Mineral Act, you look at the Land Use Act, all of these things have positioned so much power in the central government. And these are laws we inherited from the 1946 Richard Constitution. These are laws that, it was from the Mineral Ordinance that put all of the resources in the crown in England. And we have inherited and refused to change these laws. These are some of the things that need to be done because the state governors are sitting fat and comfortable on so much resources without any justifiable end to that. You know, so these are some of the things I feel needs a lot of attention. The state governors need to go out there, do their own bits in wooing investment. The local authorities also have to do the same as well.
Because they have funding for this.
The funds are there, you know, and at the end of the day, these guys just sit and enrich themselves and leave office. You see a local government chairman leave office, he owns 10, 20, 15 or 5 Prado Jeeps in his house. Where are these resources coming from? These are resources that are supposed to trickle down to the average man, and they're not doing the needful. Okay,
we just hope Nigeria will be 60. We just hope we'll learn somewhere.
I really do hope so as well.
Yeah, okay. Recently, the president said Nigeria will need to borrow some money to fund infrastructural deficit or so. What are your views on? Should we continue to borrow? Nigeria has been borrowing for some time.
We have actually been borrowing.
Yeah. Is this good for the economy?
The thing about loans, the thing about borrowing, we constantly talk about is that we must try to create a distinction between foreign loans which are coming from either multilateral agencies or the World Bank and the IMF, and domestic loans. But regardless, they're both loans. This is what the average Nigerian knows, that the government is taking loans, and over time it is his future that is being mortgaged, right? And that somewhere along the line somebody has to pay for the deficit. That's the truth. But again, you come back to the other contending views that dictate, and clearly so and rightly so, that when you look at the debt to GDP ratio that we have, you will see that, to be fair to the system, we're still within range. I think we're still dabbling between somewhere between 18 to 20% as far as our GDP to debt ratio is concerned. But again, when you look at the debt to revenue ratio, it's basically startling. The figure is very alarming, and it poses a threat to the entire system, because if you're borrowing at that rate and you expect to take that much amount of money, you know, the little that is left to develop infrastructure and capital projects, then nothing significant is going to be done. And these are part of the reasons why we're saying government needs to also look to alternatives rather than just lending. There's no country in the world that is free from debt. There are lots of countries whose GDP to debt ratio is, I think the United States is somewhere around 40 to 60%, one was between 18 to 20%. But that is not a justification to continue to borrow. We need to also look at alternatives. But in the short term, what are the things that government should do? But again, you must understand that, you see, the configuration and the individuals within this system tend to frustrate the system, so much so that even when you come with a good intention and you're trying to get something solid done, you cannot even survive it, right? You look at the civil service, for example, and look at the rot within our civil service, which nobody wants to talk about. It's nowhere close to what is happening in the public service, right? So long as we're not able to block leakages, so long as we don't cut wasteful spending, so long as we don't try to look at these areas where we can block the lacunas and use these resources that will be generated from there and put them back into infrastructural development, the deficits will continue to exist, so that no matter how much you're borrowing, it's going to go down the drain, because these individuals are still sitting head high and waiting for the resources to come. So for me, I think the loan which the president is talking about, well, I wouldn't say it's a bad thing altogether, but what is the loan being used for? And at the end of the day, are we going to see an efficient implementation and sustainability of what this loan is being used for? These are the questions that I think Nigerians should begin to ask.
I mean, this has always been the issues, you know. I mean, when you get the loan and the loan is not properly implemented.
Exactly, and in some cases you find out we take loans and we pay salaries. How can you pay back? You must, if you're taking loans, it should be for something that is regenerative. If you're taking loans, you must throw it into a sector where you're going to have a return on an ROI, a return on investment that is going to be overwhelming, so that you'll be able to pay back these loans. You're taking loans. These organizations and institutions are not Father Christmas. They want their money back somehow. You know, these are part of the reasons why we were stagnating. In my view, we need to begin to look at alternatives.
So do you think this is good for Nigerian economy at a time like this?
Well, reality is, if for one to make a rational assessment in this regard, we must look at the current situation on ground and be able to pick variables and match these issues or phenomena we're talking about, say of lending and taking loans. The government is doing fairly well enough as far as infrastructural development is concerned. You look at the area of Rail, for example, they're doing fairly well enough. We must give credit in that respect. You look at renovating and trying to re-equip our aviation sector, the airports, for example. A lot is going on. Most, or if not all, federal roads at the moment are undergoing construction. Yes, we have reservations as far as the spate of construction that is going on is concerned, but have these things been awarded? Are they being executed? The reality is yes, right? So, and then of course funding in areas of human capacity development and so on and so forth. We see that the government is doing fairly well, even though there are reservations again as to what the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, for example, is doing in terms of giving out interventions for the social intervention program. But the truth is, because we see these things happening, we might want to say the government is moving in the right direction. Now, the thing about infrastructural development and capital project is you don't get the results overnight. The result is not there in 1 year or two. The result comes over time. And this is where the government needs to understand that while you're investing in infrastructural development, also invest in your people as well, so that you can have a balanced growth as far as economic prosperity is concerned.
Okay, talking about investing in people, just recently the federal government released about 75 billion, right, for I think mitigation measure for small businesses. I mean, what do you have to say about this?
Well, it's really timely. The government, in this regard, I will give the government kudos, because COVID-19 came with a lot of issues. We're dabbling between trying to save lives and protecting livelihoods. We're talking about a country and an economy where 75% of its population are in the informal sector. We're talking blue-collar job brackets, people who go out, take a living every day and return home. So giving such interventions is very timely, especially at the time that we're in, where a lot of economies are suffering the same fate. Well, again, as you may know, it's as a result of the intervention of the social economic or the sustainability economic plan that Nigeria's economy is not shrinking to the level which it would have contracted to had it been we did not see these interventions. Because the IMF and the Bloomberg were projecting that Nigeria's economy was going to contract at about 8.8 to 9.2% as far as GDP, as far as recession. This is a negative I'm talking about here, a negative. We're in the negative already, by the way, we're in a recession. But the depth of the recession is what we're talking about here. They were projecting 8.8 to 9.2, but as a result of the interventions, we're beginning to see from the period of the disbursement of the first phase of the sustainability plan, which was supposed to be a post-ERGP program that will be like an intervention for the COVID. It's going to serve like a palliative. This is where part of the 94 or 75 billion is coming from. You know, so that intervention is very timely. It's really helping. I feel over time it's going to make an impact. But then again, of course, a lot more needs to be done. You see, the only way you can understand how a system works and be able to put measures in place, that mechanics that will aid you in addressing some of these social deficits, is that you must have a proper database for people. If you don't have a proper database, look, there are a lot of social intervention programs going on all over the world. But we must understand that there are very important mechanisms that are put in place to be able to identify the the receivers, the people who are the receiving end of all of these things we're talking about. So if you have not captured these individuals, how then do you go about disbursing these resources? Because at the end of the day, you'll be duplicating effort. At the end of the day, there could be favoritism. At the end of the day, you could find that you have captured a certain bracket that are not within the expected or target population. So there's the need for governments to step back a bit, look for mechanisms. I was listening the other day to Halima Sadia, the Honorable Minister of Humanitarian Affairs. She was talking about some mechanisms that they have designed to be able to capture these in. I think that's a good step, but a lot more needs to be done. Else, a huge chunk of the population who are supposed to be within the bracket of beneficiaries will be left out of the scheme. And at the end of the day, these are the same individuals who would be out there suffering and perhaps might be a very good and fertile breeding ground for all sort of violent groups, and they will find their way into them, which is not going to be good for the country, especially now that we're moving towards our 60th year.
Yeah, that's very important. You just talked about violence. The rate of violence in Nigeria with the young people is becoming alarming. What do you think can be done to bring some of this youth out of the
Two
streets?
things. You see, for me, it's about finding the ultimate solution. Nigeria as a configuration has a lot of challenges. Because of time, we will not be able to go into all of the details of the issues. But I'll sum it up into this, that before I go into the two things that I feel are the challenges, one is that our problem is not about our political system. It's not about our governmental system. People who are talking about restructuring, going back to parliamentary, blah, 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 all that is not going to solve the problem. Nigeria's problem is not about our micro and macroeconomic policies. Nigeria's problem is about us, our social psychological standing as human beings. We need to begin to reorientate ourselves, else we're not going to get out of this mess. We're going to be stuck in it as a result of the things that galvanizes our thoughts. We think religiously, we think ethnically, we think regionally, favoritism, we think along this primordial and myopic thoughts. This is what galvanizes the thought of most of us, including those who you find in the academic environment. There's a distinction between being educated and being lettered. We have a lot of reading and writing illiterates working amidst us. These are the people who constitute unrepentant ethnic warlords. These are the people who constitute religious bigots. Even though they're lettered, they're still not educated. So we need to change our mind frame. For me, it's not about fiscal restructuring, it's about physical restructuring. Change your brain first, else nothing is going to work. Your leader will consistently take advantage of you, because we have proven to them that we're people of low intellectual standing. So they prey on that, they take advantage of that, and then they exploit us, the ordinary people. These are the issues. Now, as far as matters of security is concerned, you see, there are twin issues, like I said. The things that are leading to so much insecurity all over the world, I'm talking globally now, are one, the huge gap in wealth distribution, and two, the huge divide in income inequality, and thirdly, perhaps is an adjunct to that, justice or injustice. Because once you have a proper system that gives distribution of wealth adequate and equitable consideration, and you have wealth and income inequality on a par, trust me, this issue of insecurity or security is going to naturally tame itself. Because humans are about, according to Karl Marx, in his historical and dialectical materialism argument, we exist for our material well-being. If people feel alienated from that material world, trust me, they will revolt. It is just natural. So all these things we hear about, criminal, bandits, and so on and so forth on the rise, it stems from there. Until we correct that, we will continue to be in this circle. Look around you. Look what's going on. The rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer, globally. And you expect people to live in peace? How? If a man cannot go out and get the irony.
Okay, thank you so very much, Dr. Mukhtar Ahmed. Imam.
Yes,
Thank you very much. It was nice having you on this. Okay, that is it with Dr. Mukhtar Imam, a public affairs analyst. See you next time. Thank you.